You're listening to On the Road, a law enforcement journey. Hear from those currently on the force while getting an insider view from what it takes to become a law enforcement officer.
Hey everyone, welcome to On the Road, a law enforcement journey. I'm your host, Jeremy Tormala. Today we're going to talk about a recap of week 10 of the police academy. We just finished that. We're going on to our spring break week, so it'll be nice to have a little bit of a regroup before we hit the home stretch of finishing this academy off. Our practical segment, we're going to talk about some compliance controls, mainly the use of pressure points and some soft joint locks. You know, your typical wrist locks and shoulder lock stuff, and how they can be very effective in helping with some situations. In our fitness segment, which may seem like, why are we talking about this? But it is going to be about breathing. Breathing is something so simple that most of the population does not do properly, and they could do a better job managing their stress and being able to perform not only like fitness wise, but on the job wise, much better once they handle a simple task as breathing. Their body will be able to prepare for all the stressors of life without with all of that kind of accumulating and burning you out and running you into the ground. So we'll touch on that when we get there. So let's just get right into it. I do want to say this week was our quote unquote big one because we got sprayed. That was an absolute miserable experience, but I'll get into that when we actually get to the training day on that. There'll also be a video of that up on our YouTube page as well. So let's get right to it. Monday, this would be Monday the 21st of March, 2022. We did our PT, so we had a different instructor. Both of our drill instructors, they actually work full time in a department as well. I think they both work the a 6 to 6 or a 6:30 to 6:30, and we start our PT at 8:30. So they're usually just getting off their shift when they have to come deal with us knuckleheads for an hour. But we did something completely different than we're not normally used to. We did mountain climbers, jumping jacks, a ton of lunges, flutter kicks, and then we did slow paced jogging around the gym. Still got sore the day after because some of the stuff like mountain climbers and stuff haven't done in a very long time. I don't even think I've done those since the military. But it was just nice to do something different. Even though we're doing it as a group and doing it for time, like holy crap, these sucks. It was still just nice to do something different. Then for our class portion, we had traffic crash pretty much all day. And all we did for this portion was classroom stuff. So we were learning how to analyze like a traffic crash scene, how to identify the different skid marks. So you got your yaw skid marks and you got your stop and skid, and how you go about measuring those and securing the scene and all that type of stuff. So that was to prepare us for what Tuesday's day would have been, which was all hands on stuff, which we'll get to shortly. Very fun, very informative. Again, something completely different. Now, I do realize most of us, when we get to our departments, aren't going to be responsible as being the traffic crash investigators, but it is nice to already have a understanding of how that whole process works on being able to calculate somebody's speed just by skid marks. Kind of cool. The last 2 hours of the day was spent doing search warrant procedures. Again, another important piece for our role as police officers to understand that process and how it works. Tuesday, we did PT running outside. It was warm and we had to wear all of our stuff. So hat, gloves, sweatpants, and all that stuff though. So that was not fun because I'm one of those. There was another person in our group talking about that. Like when you run with your gloves on and stuff, my hands get super warm and they start tingling all over. So it like to me, it becomes more of a psychological thing, and I focus on that more than the running, which we talked about in our fitness segment. And I just put my mind on the breathing to take it off of something else to put it on, focus on my breathing, and take my attention off my hands. Not that that's a big thing, like, oh my God, my hands are tingly. It's just more of an annoyance to me than anything. We did running outside, went back inside. We did time sit-ups because we have our exit fitness test coming up right after spring break. So to make sure everybody was at least able to hit their mark, and I think pretty much everybody surpassed it pretty easily. Then we did traffic crash again all day, but this was going outside, so putting all the formulas and stuff we learned to practical use. So we went outside and did drag fraction formulas. So being able to get the hands-on experience to see how that works. And then our instructor did 4 different stop and skid marks, 2 on gravel and then 2 on pavement. And then he tracked what his speed was, and it was up to us to figure out to estimate what his speed was when he went to go stop. So we had to do all the tape measures and stuff like that, and then calculating all the formulas. And when it was all said and done, I think we were only off by 2 to 3 miles per hour from what his actual speeds were on the formulas. So it was pretty cool to see that this stuff actually does work, and it's a very simple process, and it does not take a lot of time. So maybe that might be something I'd like to get my hands on and something later down on the road as a police officer. Who knows? It made math fun. You see all those equations and go, holy crap. Like, I think one of the other recruits in the academy said, I don't understand this. What are we speaking Chinese here? Like, what's this crap on the board? And it was, but once you get to put it into practice, it made it much more easier to understand and actually fun to practice all the different scenarios and stuff like that. Criminal law, we did warrantless searches. That was the last 2 hours. So it was nice to kind of coincide with what we did on Monday, the search warrant process. I think I might have talked about this in our previous, maybe earlier episode and stuff, but the warrantless searches. So there's a term I'm pretty sure pretty much any police academy or police officer already knows, the beach piss acronym for your warrantless searches. So we covered those. And what little details you have to be kind of aware of. Again, you can't just go put somebody in cuffs and put them in the back of your car and go searching through their shit. That's not how it works, and you can lose a case or get in trouble for doing that. Wednesday PT, we did push-ups, half-mile shuttle runs. So we did our practice run for the MCOLS fitness test. It wasn't timed; just had to do 15 down and back laps, and I actually felt really good on it. Felt like I went faster. We've been doing this a couple times now. I think we did it last week, and last week I was slow as shit. They actually timed us, and I got like a 4:06, and my entrance. So when we took it in, what was it, October, I had 4 minutes, and everybody else was down to like 3:40, 3:50. So I'm like, oh shit, like. But I also lift beforehand, so that might have impacted it a little bit. I just knew as soon as we were going, I'm like, I just feel really slow today. So, and it was slow. But we did that, and we did more sprints, a ton of leg lifts for our core work. Again, it was nice to do something different besides planks and stuff like that. So then we went on to, so Wednesday and Thursday were rough, and we knew it was going to be rough because it was just defense tactics all day or subject control. So Wednesday, defense tactics all day. The first half, we just went through the basics again because just like with our PT test, we have our practical for subject control and defense tactics coming up when we get back from spring break. That's actually the day before our fitness test. So we went through all the different cuffing on the prone position, the kneeling position, speed cuffing, pat downs, full custodial searches, and that stuff like that. Make sure everybody's up to par on that. And then the second half of the day was ground battles, one-on-one, and going gauntlets and vehicle extraction. So one group was out doing vehicle extractions and going over all that stuff again, while the other group of us was just going one-on-one. You just go until somebody submits. So you get your partner to submit, and this ranged from anywhere from 5 to 10 minute rounds. And as soon as you're done, you get maybe 30 seconds on, and you're switching to a different partner, and you're going on it at it again. And one of the last ones, I went twice in a row with an instructor, and like I literally had nothing left in my tank. Like my arms just felt like noodles. I just like, even if I wanted to do something, I just physically can't. Like I just have nothing left in the tank. And it was a good learning experience because they obviously know much more than we do. So get in a situation where you don't know how to get out of, and they just stop and coach you through it. And but as soon as you get out of that position, they put you right into a new one. So it's the importance of, as soon as you get out of something, you already better have something else in mind, because otherwise you might end up back in a situation on which you don't know how to get out of again. But it was very physically and physiologically exhausting. Then the last 2 days, or last 2 hours of Wednesday, we had judicial proceedings and how court works. And our instructor for that said later on in the academy, so before we graduate, we're actually going to have like a practice, or like a trial, a practical trial, kind of, where there's actually a prosecutor, defense attorney, judge, and all that stuff. And we get given a scenario, and we have to testify and all that stuff, just to see how it all works. And so you're not having your first ever kind of experience be when you're actually as a police officer. So you kind of know what to expect, which I'm looking forward to. So it'll be nice to understand how that process goes, and to uphold your integrity. That's been huge. I don't know how many times I've said it, but they've hit on it too at this academy, is integrity. If you don't know something, say you don't know. If you messed up on a report, admit that you messed up, because the minute you lie or come off as incompetent, you're going to have that hanging over your head for every other case, and prosecutor's not going to want to work with you, and the defense attorney's just going to eat you up in front of the judge and jury every time, which is true. Thursday, so this was the big day. I didn't feel any nerves because I've been sprayed before. I know it sucks. I wasn't looking forward to it. I didn't feel any nerves up until we were outside, and right before we got sprayed, that's when I really got nervous. The instructor even said, "Yeah, Jeremy, you don't look like you're like you don't look happy about this." I'm like, "Well, yeah, because I know what's coming. I know it's gonna suck." But anyways, we started off PT. We didn't do anything crazy with PT, which was actually kind of nice. Well, I mean, we did before we get sprayed, but for our actual PT session, we did log presses, push-ups, and then we were all given assignments of having to look up departments we want to work for, and other things we might not have gone over in physical fitness training, and what we would like to have seen or done more of. So we all presented on that. I talked about plyometrics, so it was easy on that aspect. And then we sat down as a group and pretty much talked about the officer to civilian ratio across the entire state of Michigan, and for the departments that we want to work at in the counties, and what that looks like in the cities. So for Michigan, this might be different now for the year, but I think the most updated information we could find is there's 17,000 police officers in the state of Michigan, and there's just over 10 million people. It's a pretty significant um, amount of people compared to police officers, and some of these areas are at a really disadvantage for how small the departments are compared to how much of the population they're responsible for. I think most of us, the places we want to go or where we're going, it's the average of around one officer per 1,000 people, which is pretty crazy if you think about that. Anyways, I'll quit BSing about that. So then we go on to our OC spray stuff with defense tactics right afterwards. And I thought, because in the Army, the way we did it was we didn't do PT or anything. It was literally we did our test, like our written test about OC spray and how to use it and stuff like that. And then we were literally outside. You get sprayed, you'll go get your ass kicked for 5 minutes, and then you wash out your eyes. Well, we reported to defense tactics with hoodies, our sweatpants on, and for once they actually had the heat on in the place. And we did PT. I don't know how long it was for. It was I know for at least over 30 minutes, but it felt like it was about an hour. And we were all just drenched in sweat. We were running on the, like, jogging back and forth on the mats. Then we'd do burpees, jog back and forth, and we'd have to have somebody hold the bag. You do strikes, so your punches, and then your palm strikes and angle kicks and stuff like that. And then you go back to more jogging on the mat back and forth, and you go to takedowns on each other, jogging back and forth on the mat, burpees, push-ups, and then ground battles one-on-one. As soon as the person get up, you're running in place, and then you switch partners, you repeat that. I don't know how many times we did that. Same thing, just completely gassed, drenched in sweat. And then they literally brought in two chest protectors, and just pick two people. It's like, all right, you and you, all strikes are eligible, so you can throw punches, elbows, whatever, just as long as the area is protected, and you're going for 2 minutes. So that's what it was. After your 2 minutes, people went out, and that's when you get sprayed. So the reason they had us do all this physical training and PT beforehand was to open up all your pores, because that makes it much more worse of an experience. And it was way worse than I remember ever experiencing in the military, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But there's also another reason for that. But I was one of the last. So I was one of the last three of us to go. So me and the guy I was going up against went for our 2 minutes, and we went outside, and we got the joy of being able to watch the other group of two or three get sprayed, and felt bad as one guy goes right for his eyes. And we talked about it in the morning beforehand. Just make sure nobody brings your hands right to your eyes. That's one of the worst things you could do. You're just going to rub it in, and it's just a human nature, natural instinct to do that. Something gets sprayed in your face, you want to protect your eyes. Yeah, and that wasn't. Not fun for everybody. So we go up there, and we get told what the instructions are going to be. So it's state your name, your date of birth, and where you're going to be working or what department you want to work for. And after you say that, they spray you. So I was expecting to get the single stream right across the face, or the Z pattern. And then the person on my right, which you guys will be able to see in the video, got sprayed first. And as soon as I heard that spray can, I knew it was the frickin' fogger, because you can hear that, and it's like, oh shit. And then it hits me, and mouth opens and inhales some of that. Or the instructor who sprayed us actually inhaled some too. And then the immediate face is on fire. Your throat closes up, and you start coughing and try to open your eyes, and you can't see shit. And so what we had to do initially would have been going through an entire obstacle course, but because they changed things around to kick our asses beforehand. And one of the reasons is because you're never going to just go in and really spray somebody and wrestle with them. It's usually when you're wrestling with somebody that either a partner comes in and sprays them, and then you have to finish off the fight. That's why we started off with doing the enormous amount of PT and ground wrestling before we got sprayed. And our obstacle course afterwards, it wasn't an obstacle course. We ran. So we got escorted. We had to do a run around the building, and then throw like 10 combos at a bag, and then go inside and knock out 25 jumping jacks. And it was absolutely miserable. Then you go flush out your eyes, and it took probably more than an hour for me to even be able to keep my eyes open afterwards. And me and one of the guys I got sprayed with were like, how is everybody else already like inside, or like they're walking around just fine? I'm just like, my face still feels like it's on freaking fire. Like I can hardly keep my eyes open. Like I feel miserable. And I finally got good enough to go back inside and do part of our class stuff, because they were all talking about, everybody else that went before us. They were all going over the written portion of what's going to be covered on our exam. And finally felt good enough to go in and be a part of that. And of course, everybody got their giggles and all that stuff. Oh, you look rough. You look like crap. And yeah, I found it funny too, even though I was still suffering an unbelievable amount of pain and discomfort. But then we all went to go shower, and I knew right away from my time in the military, showering is probably not going to be a good idea, especially this early on. But everybody else did it, and of course, people are like, "Yeah, it burns, it reactivated just a little bit, but not nearly as bad." So I'm like, well, I'll try it too." And so I'm doing the shower. We had the Dawn dish soap and stuff like that in cold water. I just immediately started hacking and coughing. My eyes just started burning and right closed shut. So I had to, while still dripping sweat, put on my clothes and go running back outside. And it took probably another half hour to be able to come back down again to be able to see. And I missed out on my lunch break and stuff like that because because of that. And then we go back inside. So I get changed into our duty uniform. Not our full uniform, just our trousers, our boots, and stuff like that, and our duty belt. Go back inside, and we're putting our belts on and going onto the mats. I'm just like, I thought we were done for the day. Like, we were all under the impression of like we're getting sprayed, and then you're just going to recover up until our criminal law classes at 3 o'clock. But that wasn't the case. We all went back to takedowns, cuffing, and one-on-one ground fighting. And what happens afterwards? It starts reactivating on pretty much everybody again. So people, I start burning, face starts burning. I actually got one of the instructors when I was going on one-on-one, put me in a little bit of a bear hug when I was on top of him, and I put my head next to his, and he even started. He's like, "I got to stop. My face is burning." Uh, it wasn't as bad as the previous couple times that it reactivated on me, but I was just like, I don't remember this being so freaking miserable. Like the army wasn't like this. Like it was like an all day thing, but it was like bearable. I could keep my eyes open and stuff like that. This was all day of just my face just felt like it was in an oven, and my eyes like it hurt for to open up, the light sensitivity and stuff. My wife and mother-in-law even came up to drive me back home. And then as I was looking, I'm just like, oh, I wonder why it took us so long, this last group, to recover. Like why it felt so bad, or even myself. Like why am I suffering so bad because of this? Like it doesn't make any sense. I know I'm older than when I was in the military, but then I went through my cell phone and saw the pictures of the spray can next to the donuts the instructors brought in. So I zoomed in on it. I'm just like, oh, I wonder what type of intensity spray they were using. And it's the Phantom 30 Saber 1.33%. It's a level 3 spray fogger, also for bear spray. So that's why it was a hell of a lot worse than I remember, because I didn't get sprayed with the fogger in the military, and we also did not use an intensity that was used for level 3, such as bear attacks and stuff like that. That was absolutely miserable. So if you're going to an academy and you see that OC spray day coming up, just be aware that you might not be getting sprayed with the same thing everybody else is. You might get a lighter intensity, or you might get something worse than what everybody else got. So just keep that in mind. Either way, it sucked for everybody. We're just glad it's done with. It's just another one of those things to look back on now and laugh and go, well, I'm glad that day is over with. We made it all through it, and enjoy our little break and then charge on and get through this, the rest of the academy. So at 3 o'clock, we had 4 hours of criminal law. Same thing, we were just covering more on the warrantless searches. And we got out just a little bit early because our instructor showed us some pity, because we were all still suffering so much from it. Yeah, and then got home and took a shower again using baby shampoo and had it reactivate one last time. It only lasted, I had to go back outside, but it only lasted like within 10 minutes, it was completely gone. So yeah, that was nice. Now I feel completely fine. Glad it's over. I would never wish that on anybody. I will never be volunteering ever in my life to go get sprayed. I would rather be tased. I would rather go sit in the gas chamber again, because that stuff only lasts a couple minutes. Or in like a taser, I've never been tased, but it's just 5 seconds. Like I'd rather do that than have to deal with an all day thing like OC spray. But everybody's got to do it, and it's almost part of that process. You got to earn it, and it's a quote unquote stripe on the old badge there, or uniform to walk around with. I mean, if you're going to be carrying it, I do agree with that. If you're going to carry something, you should know how it's going to react and how it feels. I mean, you shouldn't be able to go spray somebody and go, yeah, I don't know how that feels. That must suck, or not have any empathy for them or what they're going through, because it is absolutely miserable. So if you know that's the level of force you're going to choose, you know what the repercussions of that is going to be, and if you go one-on-one with somebody, there's a good chance you're going to get it on yourself too. So that might be a good indicator of like, I don't know if I want to resort to using OC spray as my next level on the force continuum there. But everybody's different. I just personally wouldn't. I don't think I'll ever carry it, just because there's always that risk of either cross contamination, not only myself, but whatever partner I may be with. You don't want to make it to where you can't see what you're doing and you make the situation worse on yourself. Or I would feel bad, regardless of what somebody does, of spraying somebody and having to put them in handcuffs, and they're going through all that misery and having to be cuffed, and then trying to calm them down and flush out their eyes and stuff. I think there's far better ways to get things done than resorting to the OC spray. So enough on that. That covers week 10 of the academy. Went by super fast, I think, because all of us knew Thursday was our spray day. And again, I wasn't nervous about it up until I was literally sitting outside going, oh shit, there's the can. And once I heard that sound, I knew it wasn't stream. I knew it was that fogger, and sure as shit it was. Practical segment. I don't know how much I'm going to go in depth on this because I don't want to beat some of the similar, like, I don't want to beat my head against the door with the basic stuff, but I'm just going through like stuff that's really worked well for me from when I remember the military, but also while during this academy through it during our ground fighting and subject control type stuff. And that's been because I'm a smaller guy. I highly um, uh, resort to using pressure points, and the biggest ones that work regardless of who you are is the femoral nerve. So it's the inside of the leg. I mean, you take a knee or you take an elbow and you just dig it into someone's femoral nerve, it hurts. Yeah, I've had that done to me too by other recruits in the academy, and yeah, it is not pleasant. But there's the femoral nerve. Another one, even noticing a pressure point, I've done a couple times, and I know other people have too, is taking your thumb or even your knuckles and raking somebody in the ribs. So you find anywhere on the ribs, and you just rake up and down. Knuckles works better because you got more points of contact and harder points of contact than saying using like a thumb or something like that. Doesn't work on everybody because I've tried to use it on sometimes on the instructors going out one it doesn't even phase them. But if you go to the femoral or other type things, that might work. Infraorbital. So infraorbital is right under your nose. So take your fingers, you dig in to separate the nose from the face a little bit, and you push backwards at like a 45-degree angle towards the back of the person's skull. That one also hurts a lot. It's not pleasant, and you can get out of a lot of situations just using the infraorbital. I mean, even something simple as like headlocks and stuff. So if somebody's got you in a headlock, you take your hand, wrap it around, dig your pinky in, and you just push off. They'll let go in a heartbeat. Same with if you're in a ground to ground battle, even if somebody's in the mount position, so somebody's on top of you and you're able to grab onto an arm or something and secure that one arm, take your opposite hand and just shove it right in the face and help get them off you. That works very effectively. And that's, I guess, those are the biggest things when you get in those situations. Don't, like, if you're a smaller guy, I'm just saying it because my perspective, pretty much everybody in this academy is quite a bit bigger than I am, is I'm not going to resort to, like, I'll try initially to try to buck somebody off or try to do a rollover, even if I'm breaking table down. By what I mean by breaking tables down is like, if somebody's on top of you and they got both hands planted flat on the floor, take one of their arms out so it's easier to roll them over. They can't keep their hands planted to stabilize themselves. You're creating an instability for them so you can be able to roll them over. Well, sometimes when a guy's got 50, 60 pounds on me, it doesn't matter. He can just put all of his force and just keep me from trying to roll over anyways. So that's when I resort to using an infraorbital, or there's a little space right there. I'm going to take my elbow and I'm just going to dig it right into the femoral to get the leg to come up just a little bit, and then either flip that way or at least get into like a half guard, or to be able to just shrimp out of there. Shrimping is so important. I don't know if anybody knows what shrimping is, but you go to a basic MMA or defense tactic drills. It's just being able to get out of a situation like that. Another effective one too is if you're in a full guard position. So full guard is if I'm laying on my back and someone, I literally got my legs wrapped around somebody. All right, so their knees and stuff. So their groin area is pretty much by my butt, and I got my knees, my legs wrapped around their hips or their lower back. Another effective method is scissoring your legs. So squeeze your knees together against their torso and rake back and forth. That hurts like hell. And it turns into, the more separation you get, it turns into more a kicking motion. So you could either drive your boots into their sides or kick them in the femoral and stuff like that. Because you don't have to do, for pressure points, you can also strike them. It's not just solely about applying pressure. You can strike them. So it's the same concept with like the common peroneal, the femoral, the brachial plexus, that type of stuff. Another effective one too that people don't use a whole lot of is the suprascapularis. Uh, I don't remember. I like people teach it to push down on it, but I literally like to grab it, like grab like a thumb and index finger and squeeze it. If you don't know what the suprascapularis is, just grab the traps. You just squeeze that muscle hard, and it hurts. I mean, you can grab it, squeeze it, and push down to get somebody to go down, or you can grab it, squeeze it, and pull up to get somebody to stand up. It's also a very effective and very easy one. I mean, it's very easy to grab. Even if somebody doesn't have neck muscles like the trap muscles, you can still find an easy spot to grab on. Very effective. But that's the whole purpose of this whole practical segment, is just my experience being a smaller person and what I've had to resort to a lot in my one-on-one battles with people, not just other recruits, but the instructors, has been a lot of using pressure points. Now, the other one I talked about, what we'll do in the intro, is using joint locks, so wrist locks. It's the same concept when you cuff people, like if you're doing speed cuffing, when you gooseneck somebody's wrist. Some people it doesn't bother, but most people that wrist, the gooseneck on the wrist will hurt. So if you get into a fighting position or you're doing ground battles, if you can secure a hand and get them in the gooseneck, that will work too. We actually did that during one of our scenarios. We had to go just pick two people. So you versus you, one's a cop, one's the bad guy. Cop, you have to get that person in cuffs, and got the person on the ground and ended up putting in, it was funny, this situation, but putting the person in a Kimura. So I don't even want to try to explain what a Kimura is. You can just YouTube it. But I got the person in this, and you're screaming in pain. I'm just like, all right, now you're going to roll over on your stomach. And it's like, yes, yes. I'm like, you better roll over on your damn stomach and put your hands behind your back. So I lit up a little bit, and they rolled over and put the hands behind their back. So real life, would that happen? Probably not. You let go on somebody who really is actively resisting an officer is not going to want to cooperate if they get a chance to break free from it. But just knowing that those tools are out there, they're very easy to apply. Anytime you get a wrist or a shoulder, it's easy to manipulate because they go in various extreme ranges of motion, and any type of twisting and all that stuff, you can really apply a lot of pressure and extreme discomfort. And when we're talking about the wrist, a lot of pain with that. I'll end that segment right there. This episode is probably going to be significantly shorter than what it normally is. I want to go into our fitness segment because I also use this for after when we got sprayed, but I use this continuously, and I'm going to stress the importance of using proper breathing techniques, whether you're at work, whether you're doing physical training, you're under a lot of stress, you can't sleep, you can use this type of breathing anytime, anywhere, and it is so important and is very effective. And I got a couple situations. Well, I'll just use one situation where I personally saw it work on somebody with objective data, not just subject. Oh yeah, I feel better. It was able to watch it real time happen. So the breathing I'm talking about is belly breathing. It's also called diaphragmatic breathing, but we don't like to use diaphragmatic because when breathing naturally uses your diaphragm. So that's kind of a stupid term to use because all breathing uses it. So we use belly breathing because you breathe through your belly and then exhale out through your mouth. So I guess I'll go explain how this works. Right. So if you got space, you don't have to even lay on the ground, but it's just easier to teach people laying on the ground. So lay flat on the ground on your back. It doesn't matter if your legs are straight or if knees are bent at 90 and your feet are flat on the floor. All of our breathing takes place when you inhale nice and slow through your nose and you exhale out through your mouth. Now, when you breathe, you should feel your abdominals rise first, not your chest. More people often than not, and I used to be this way too, are chest breathers. You constantly keep yourself in a state of high stress, and we don't want to do that, especially if you're a police officer. You want to be able to calm yourself down, get out of that fight or flight so you can be able to think and react and keep your performance high, because if you're constantly stressed, what happens to your performance? It goes down the toilet. So we don't want that to happen. And that's all you do is just focus on your breathing, feel your stomach rise as you inhale, exhale out through the mouth, and your stomach should flatten. Do not do it through the chest. Again, that's stressful breathing. Keeping the fight or flight going. So when we're talking like the more quote unquote science for this, it's sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system is responsible for your fight or flight. So gets the heart rate up, gets your adrenaline going, blood pressure, everything skyrockets because it's like, oh shit, I react or I get out of here. And we don't want to maintain that constant state. Your parasympathetic is called the rest digest. So you're nice and relaxed. All the other things can start to happen. You're calm, collective. You can process things. Your body can recover. That's the state we want to be into most of the time. And we need to be able to teach ourselves to get out of that high stress environment and calm ourselves down quickly to get into a rested state so we can be able to react to something else that may happen. So, going through this academy through our fitness classes, they called it box breathing, also called tactical breathing. Now, you could do this, but I have a personal preference, which I'll get to after I talk about it. So, tactical breathing or box breathing is using counts of 3 or 4. So, you inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. So, literally going for 4, then you hold that breath in for 4 seconds, and then you do exhale out the mouth for 4 seconds, and then you hold that for 4 seconds, and you repeat that pattern. Now, personally, I don't like the breath holding because sometimes that can increase heart rate in people. You can try it for yourself, and if it works for you, maintain that. But I just like to do, and I've coached all of our athletes to do it, is just 4 seconds in, like 3 to 4 seconds in through your nose, and then a bit of a faster exhale, so 2 to 3 seconds exhaling, just to focus on the breathing and calming your system down. And I remember going through this through the military, but I never took it seriously. I was young and dumb at that point. Oh, what breathing? This is stupid. How is this going to calm me down? And now knowing what I do and seeing it work in athletic populations, I'm completely bought into it. So I want to try to get other people to buy into that. But before I left the hockey team here, we had heart rate monitors. This was the first year we got heart rate monitors for our guys, and it was preseason, I believe. And we were on the bench, and we could watch our heart rates in real time. Who was in the red, who was in the green, and that would all depend. So like 150s, 160s would be up high, and then you got your people that are like 80s and 90s that are, a couple minutes off the bench. And we were able to see some guys, as soon as they get off the ice, like you'd see them in the red, so their heart rate's jacked up, and you'd see them making mistakes on the ice. They'd get off on the bench, and you could see them just chest breathing, just a rapid breathing. You could see their chest rising and falling with their equipment, and you would never see their heart rate really drop. And then they'd come time to go right back on their next shift, 3 or 4, 2, 3, 4 minutes later, and they'd be almost in the red already. As soon as they get on the ice, they're already right back in the red. And what happens to their performance? It sucks. They start making mistakes. They can't pass the puck. They miss up on reading a play, stuff like that, because they're physiologically not recovered. So they can't handle that stuff. They can't process things because their body's so stressed out. And then you also had the ones that were doing the breathing who would come off the ice in a matter of 45 seconds. They would be completely calm, just like looking with the coach, like if you were to put that guy right back on the ice, he'd be good to go. Like that's how quick breathing can help. So we use it as a tool. So the guys that were doing chest breathers, we would literally take the monitor, so the iPad, bring it up to them, go belly breathe, focus on your breathing, inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. And then they could watch their numbers start going down as they focus on that breathing. And within like a week, the whole team was doing it. And it's so far, it's still paying dividends. They're playing really well. But it is so important to be able to calm your system down so you can maintain a high standard of performance. And this isn't for sport. Managing any type of stress, financial stress, job stress, I can't sleep, anything like that, to calm your system down, relax, so you're not in that constant state of stress. We don't want to be that way. Talk about the big part for that is the quick recovery rate. So I like to use this because I like being in the gym. But anytime you're physical training, so if you like doing PT or you're an avid exerciser, try practicing it. Not necessarily while you're doing so if I'm doing a set of squats, don't necessarily try it then. But after I do my squats, so say I'm doing a superset, so say I'm doing sets of squats, and then I'm going to do sets of pull-ups. Well, during my rest period between exercises or after I do both exercises, I focus on the breathing. And if I'm doing the stretching, I focus on the breathing as well, because you're calming your system down. You're getting a good stretch. That heart rate's dropping, blood pressure's dropping, and then you can go right back into your next set and give another 100% effort. Because if you're chest breathing, your heart rate stays up, your blood pressure stays up, and what happens, I'm just using this for fitness, all right? Your following sets are probably not going to be that great, and your output's not going to be that great. Now let's take fitness away, and you go on the road, or you're trying to sleep at night, and you're constant chest breathing, your heart rate's up, your blood pressure's up, your mind is racing 1,000,000 miles an hour. Your fight or flight's engaged. Focus on your breathing, whether you do the belly breathing or tactical breathing. Give it a whirl. I promise it'll work. It is a great stress management tool and will help you perform your job effectively. Again, remember, the community relies on you. Don't just blow stuff off when you are responsible for taking care of yourself, because there's more than just you that people rely on. I'll make sure there's nothing else I missed out on. I don't want to just babble on for the sake of adding more time. That was pretty much it. It was a busy week. Got bruises all over from our DT days, and a lot of it was fun. And again, the learning experience happens when you're put in those situations. The OC spray was absolutely miserable, and I know a few of the other recruits said they appreciated people being honest from, those of us who've been sprayed before. Just like, well, yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It absolutely sucks. It's going to be the worst, probably like 30 minutes of your life. You're going to hate it, and it's going to be miserable. You can't breathe. You can't see. Everything just burns, and you have to protect yourself from getting your ass kicked while you can't see or breathe. But everybody got through it, and I already told my wife this. What I really liked about all of this was the experience. People kept checking on each other. So the ones who were already kind of recovered, walking by, hey, how are you doing? Are you fine? Do you need water? Like anything like that. Like, I have a lot of good friends in the strength and conditioning community, and I could rely on them, but nothing like this. Like, it's still, granted, we're like 10, 11 weeks into this thing. We still all have our own lives and all that stuff, but there's no selfishness to it. Everybody helps each other out without even like putting a second thought to it. And it is so refreshing to be back in that environment again. And I do not miss the fitness or the strength and conditioning community, not even 1 ounce. My only regret is not doing this sooner. I do, however, want to be active, play an active part in the strength and conditioning for police academies and also law enforcement, to make sure they're getting proper sound training, effective training, especially while you're out on the road or while they're at academies preparing recruits for the rigors of what they're going to experience in life. Because when it comes to a lot of stuff, you hear paramilitary, and paramilitary has its benefits, but at the same time, when it comes to physical training, there is a reason why the military has been trying to transition from their fitness protocols for many decades. If you haven't been aware of that, research it. Like sports science nerds and stuff like that have been trying to actively change a lot of that stuff for many decades, and now it's finally been in the process of being done, because that type of physical training does more harm than any benefit. So that's all I got to say about that. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or you have experiences you would like to talk about, reach out to me. I'd love to have you on. If not, I hope this is providing some sort of value to you as a listener. I just want to document as best as I can my experience through this, while giving a good review of it. And, I'll give more insights and stuff, obviously, after the academy's through, when everything can finally sink in and stuff like that. But our weeks are so busy here. You go from preparing for one big thing, then the next big thing's coming up. And for us, we got our practicals coming up. So, we got our week off now. I still got to study because we got our physical training exam. We got our practical for our defense tactics. And we also have some of our other midterms coming up for criminal investigations and stuff like that. So still got to stay up on the ball and not be completely complacent on that. God bless you guys. Have a great weekend. Next week, I wasn't planning on having a show, but I think I'm going to take that opportunity of not having anything happening to talk something more about strength and conditioning and fitness related, as far as like programming or something like that. Or if anybody has an idea, something that they would like to hear more about, reach out to me and I will make that episode solely about that. Again, God bless. Have a great day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to On the Road, a law enforcement journey. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or would like to be on the show, email me at ontheroadlaw@gmail.com. And please share this podcast. Thank you.